I'm a doctor, and today I'm going to explain how magnesium helps muscle cramps. Muscle cramps can be pretty annoying, and it seems like they happen more and more as we get older. There are lots of different things that can cause muscle cramps, but one common cause is low levels of magnesium. So in this video, I'm going to go over the evidence for how magnesium helps muscle cramps. If you stick around until the end, I'll also tell you what kind of magnesium is best for muscle cramps, as well as how much magnesium you should take and how often you should take it. So let's start with what is magnesium. Magnesium is a mineral that our bodies need to function properly. We need magnesium for hundreds of different things, including building DNA and RNA, making proteins, making certain hormones, regulating blood pressure and blood sugar, supporting a healthy immune system, and helping muscles contract and relax. In fact, when it comes to our muscles, magnesium does two important things. First, magnesium helps our muscles contract. Now, there are lots of things that can cause muscle cramps. But one of the main things that causes muscle cramps is an imbalance between two important minerals called sodium and potassium. See, sodium and potassium help maintain electrical balance in our bodies, and especially in our muscles. In fact, the reason why our muscles can contract and relax is because of the balance between sodium and potassium inside and outside of our muscle cells. And magnesium helps move sodium and potassium into and out of muscle cells. One way we can increase the amount of magnesium inside our muscles is by putting it in lotions or creams and rubbing it into our skin. But unfortunately, when we rub magnesium into our skin, only tiny amounts of magnesium actually gets absorbed into our muscles. So what gives? Why do some studies say that oral magnesium works and other studies say it doesn't work? In fact, less than 5% of magnesium oxide and less than 15% of magnesium hydroxide gets absorbed by our bodies. But here I'll just summarize it. It's basically, when it comes to preventing muscle cramps, magnesium citrate tends to work the best. Magnesium oxide and magnesium hydroxide tend to not work. And the other four types of magnesium fall somewhere in between. Some people only need to take magnesium supplements when they're doing a lot of exercising, while other people may need to take magnesium every day to prevent muscle cramps. Again, it all depends on your situation, so it's important to talk to your doctor about how much magnesium you should take. This means that most of the magnesium that we ingest is passed through our intestines and comes out the other end as waste. For example, one study found that drinking a beverage containing magnesium helped decrease the pain and severity of muscle cramps during exercise. And if you'd like to learn more about the different types of magnesium, click here to watch my video on the topic. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Another study found that taking a single dose of magnesium relieved exercise-induced muscle pain. So magnesium can be helpful, both for preventing muscle cramps and relieving muscle cramps. But for now, let's talk about how much magnesium citrate we need to take to prevent muscle cramps. On the other hand, magnesium citrate is highly absorbable. In fact, about 40% of the magnesium citrate we ingest gets absorbed by our bodies. And because it's so absorbable, magnesium citrate tends to increase magnesium levels in our muscles better than other forms of magnesium. Well, it turns out that the answer has to do with what type of magnesium we take. See, there are 6 different types of magnesium that are commonly used in supplements. The 6 different types of magnesium are magnesium oxide, magnesium hydroxide, magnesium citrate, magnesium diglycinate, magnesium aspartate, and magnesium sulfate. Other studies have found similar results. Now, it's important to point out that 200 milligrams is less than what's recommended by the National Institutes of Health. In fact, the NIH recommends that men younger than 50 years of age take 400 to 420 milligrams of magnesium a day, while women younger than 50 years of age should take 310 to 320 milligrams of magnesium a day. However, most of the magnesium that the NIH recommends is to prevent bone loss, not to prevent muscle cramps. And since the research is still pretty new, we don't yet know exactly how much magnesium citrate we need to take to prevent muscle cramps. But based on the evidence so far, taking 200 milligrams of magnesium citrate a day seems like a good place to start. Each of these types of magnesium are absorbed and used by our bodies differently. And it turns out that some of them are better at increasing magnesium levels in our muscles than others. Another way we can put magnesium into our muscles is by sticking needles into our muscles and injecting magnesium directly into the muscle. This is called intramuscular magnesium. And research has shown that giving people magnesium injections can decrease muscle cramps. Unfortunately, though, we don't want to do this at home. Instead, doctors do this in a clinical setting. That's because sticking needles into our muscles hurts a lot, and it can also cause bleeding and other complications. So if we don't have enough magnesium, then the balance of sodium and potassium gets thrown off, and that leads to muscle cramps. But unfortunately, when we take magnesium pills, it's hard to get the magnesium from our intestines into our muscles. That's because most of the magnesium in our bodies is located in our bones. So when we ingest magnesium, most of it goes to our bones, and only a small amount of it stays in our muscles. Because of this, it's hard to increase the amount of magnesium in our muscles by taking magnesium pills. And as a result, some studies have found that taking oral magnesium supplements doesn't decrease muscle cramps. So if we don't have enough magnesium, our muscles won't be able to squeeze and move as they should, because we usually replace that sodium and potassium by eating foods containing those minerals and also through the sodium and potassium that's already present in our bodies. But sometimes we can lose a lot of sodium and potassium, like if we sweat a lot during exercise, or if we re-sick and we re-throwing up or we have diarrhea. And if we lose too much sodium or potassium, then our bodies can get out of whack, and that can lead to muscle cramps. Normally, magnesium helps our bodies keep the right balance of sodium and potassium. But if we don't have enough magnesium, then we can't hold on to our sodium and potassium as well, which means we're more likely to get muscle cramps. You can get magnesium in foods like spinach, almonds, avocado, soy milk, fish, and whole wheat. For example, low magnesium levels can make our muscles more excitable, which means our muscles are more likely to start contracting, and they have a harder time stopping once they start. But sometimes it can be hard to get enough magnesium from your diet. And sometimes our bodies have trouble absorbing magnesium from the food we eat. Let's talk about the evidence for whether taking magnesium supplements can help prevent muscle cramps. And the answer is that it depends. It turns out that for some people, taking magnesium supplements can help decrease the number of cramps they have. But for other people, magnesium doesn't have any effect on their cramping. And the reason for this has to do with where the magnesium is located. See, the muscles that are attached to our bones, called skeletal muscles, are the muscles that we use when we walk or run or lift things or do pretty much any type of physical activity. And it turns out that the amount of magnesium inside of our skeletal muscles is really important for preventing muscle cramps. If we don't have enough magnesium inside of our muscles, then our muscles are more likely to cramp. Either way, if we don't have enough magnesium in our bodies, then bad things can happen. And one of those bad things is muscle cramps. They're important for all of us because if our muscles can't contract and relax properly, even simple things like walking up a flight of stairs can cause cramping and pain. And second, magnesium helps our muscles relax after contracting. So if we don't have enough magnesium, our muscles will have trouble relaxing. And these two functions of magnesium are important, not just for athletes or for people who work out a lot, but how do we get magnesium? Well, we get most of our magnesium through the food we eat. So how does magnesium deficiency cause muscle cramps? To understand how magnesium deficiency causes muscle cramps, let's first look at what causes muscle cramps in general. Now normally, when we sweat, we lose a little bit of sodium and a little bit of potassium, and that is okay, but there's more. Low magnesium levels can cause muscle cramps in other ways too. Okay, so now that we know how magnesium helps our muscles, and how low magnesium levels can cause our muscles to cramp, now, the problem is that it can be hard to increase the amount of magnesium that's inside of our muscles. That leaves us with one other option to increase the amount of magnesium in our muscles. And that's by taking magnesium orally, like in the form of a pill. However, other studies have found that taking oral magnesium supplements does decrease muscle cramps. For example, magnesium oxide and magnesium hydroxide are two types of magnesium that are poorly absorbed by our bodies. Now, I've made a whole separate video explaining the different types of magnesium and how they reabsorbed by our bodies. Now, if you want to learn more about the different types of magnesium and see a comparison chart that compares how absorbable each of the types of magnesium are, check out my video on the different types of magnesium. One study found that taking 200 milligrams of magnesium citrate a day decreased muscle cramps by about half. Should take magnesium every day? That depends. Finally, I should point out that while this video focused on how magnesium helps prevent muscle cramps, magnesium is also helpful for relieving muscle cramps that have already started. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up.